Hello and welcome to today's presentation, which is about the Governor's Council for Developmental Disabilities here in Arkansas. I'm John Taylor. I am Executive Director for the Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities, and I'll be presenting today with my Executive Director, Assiah Lewellen. Assiah, you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Sure, John, thanks. My name is Assiah Lewellen. I have worked for the Governor's Council since 2016 in a variety of roles. My past professional experience was in grants administration since 2011. So a lot of my focus has been that administering our funding programs. I also focus on state plan development and implementation, and also supporting our advocacy initiatives and other funded projects.
Excellent. Thank you, Assiah. I myself came to the council in the summer of 2021. Prior to that, I was a store manager for TJ Maxx and Marshalls, and I was with them for 13 years. That was part of a 30-year career in retail. About 10 years ago, I started actively hiring people with disabilities, and I found that hiring people with disabilities was one of those things that, from a business standpoint, it made me feel good because I was doing the right thing for people. But even more importantly, it was a fantastic business decision. I found that Arkansans with disabilities were just as reliable, worked just as hard, and were even more loyal than the average employee I hired. So bringing people on board to my store teams that had disabilities was just great business sense. And that work brought me to the attention of a few different entities. One was the Arkansas Rehabilitation Services and their board, the State Rehabilitation Council. I was asked to join them. I'm currently chair of the State Rehabilitation Council. I also started working with Disability In. For those of you that have been working with the disability community for a long time, they used to be known as the USBLN, but it became Disability In, and I became the founding co-chair, where I still serve in that role for the state of Arkansas. And then eventually it brought me to this, the Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities, where I am executive director. I'm thrilled to be here and part of the work that we do. The council itself is part of a federally funded self-governing system. The Governor's Council for Developmental Disabilities is funded by a grant by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and through the Administration on Community Living, or ACL. And through the ACL, we're part of the Administration on Disabilities Office of Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. The legislation that founded developmental disability councils has been around for 50 years, but that particular legislation was reauthorized in 2000. It's a lengthy document, but it clearly outlines the work that we do. So the Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities, we work with our partners and our stakeholders to identify the most pressing needs for people with disabilities in our state. And once we figure out what those are, we work to conduct outreach, we try to foster systems change, and we work to support capacity building efforts. Now, the council itself, and we'll talk about the structure of that in a moment, is supported by an administrative staff. So it's myself, executive director. I have Assiah, my deputy director. We also have a program coordinator. We also have a finance and operations person, and we have 2 part-time admins. So once the council decides what's going to be done, it's up to the staff and I to make sure that those things in our federal 5-year plan are executed. And so that's what we do on a day-to-day basis.
All right, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the Arkansas DD Network, or Developmental Disabilities Network. This is a partnership, collaboration. Under the DD Act, it's not just the state councils on developmental disabilities that are authorized to do work out in the states. There are a couple of other organizations that help us move forward in our plans, and we do the same for them. Each state has a protection and advocacy agency. In Arkansas, that's Disability Rights Arkansas. And each state also has at least one UCED or University Center, and it's a Center for Excellence in Disabilities. And these are parts of typically the state university. In Arkansas, we have Partners for Inclusive Communities, which is part of the University of Arkansas system. And we each have our own plan that we operate on that's federally approved, but we have an overlap, so we work together to do more, essentially. And we are all three of the partners in the DD network. Our core goals from the DD Act are to advance self-determination, independence, productivity, integration, and inclusion in all facets of life for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities.
Thank you, Assiah. So let's talk about the council itself. There's 23 members on the Governor's Council for Developmental Disabilities. And what's important is that the people that are on the board represent 4 specific categories. The first one, and most importantly, is individuals with intellectual or developmental disabilities, family members of individuals with developmental disabilities, directors of state agencies that serve people with disabilities, and finally, representatives from nonprofit organizations and local agencies to provide services and supports for people with disabilities. Assiah had mentioned our other 2 DD network partners on Disability Rights Arkansas and Partners for Inclusive Communities. Both of those directors sit on our board. So together, those 23 members are the ones that set goals and directions for the staff to achieve and to work towards our goals. Getting on the council is a process, and Assiah is going to address that process for us.
So John kind of went over the categories of members. We are a 23 member council. A lot of times we get that question, how do I join the council? Well, you have to remember that the governor ultimately is the one who appoints all of our council members. And so the process to join really is all through an online application with the Governor's Boards and Commissions office website. We do have a publication. It's called Join the Council. It's available in English, Spanish, and Marshallese, and you can contact our office or go to our website to get a copy of that publication that kind of just tells you a lot of the same basic information that we've been talking about or will continue to talk about in this presentation. But our website is gcdd.arkansas.gov. We have a resources page, and that's where you'll find our publications. You can email us at ddcstaff@dfa.arkansas.gov. Anytime you want to, request one of our publications, or if you have any questions about joining the council. The Governor's Office of Boards and Commissions, again, has an online application process. And currently, online is the only way that you can apply to become a board member in the state of Arkansas. We would advise you to keep your online application current. So once you have gone through the application process with boards and commissions, we suggest that if you don't get appointed to the board or commission that you were trying to get appointed to, each year, set a reminder for yourself to go back, re-up your application, get that one in there, keep it so that it's a current application. And so the boards and commission staff will always see that you're interested. And part of in that application, you are able to note if there is a specific board or commission that you're wanting to serve on. Just know that they will do a background check. That's part of the application process. And if you're preparing to do your application, it might be helpful to you to go ahead and gather this information ahead of time and have it ready so that when you sit down to go through that online application, you have everything you need. You're going to need your social security number, your educational history, employment history, You want to talk about any special interest groups that you're part of or activities that you've taken part of, especially if that might help your application stand out for whatever specific board that you're applying for. Here, we're hoping that you're applying for the GCDD. So you might want to talk about any advocacy activities that you already partake in. They're going to ask about any legal history, if there's been any citations or issues. You'll note if you've had military service. You're going to let them know those qualifications that you feel like makes you a good candidate for that appointment that you're requesting. Licenses or certificates, previous appointments that you've held, if you've been elected to any positions, and you will need 3 personal references, and you'll need to supply contact information for those references. On your screen now, you'll see what the boards and commissions website looks like. So you're going to go to a page that looks like this. It has a picture of the Capitol across the top, and it says application for appointment. And there are very clear directions on that website on how to fill out your application. We have the website link here on the screen. But if you just Google search Governor Hutchinson Office of Boards and Commissions, you'll probably get the website to come up, the web page to come up. And again, you can always call GCDD and let us know that you're interested and that you're applying, or if you have applied, that you have an application in, just so that that helps us take that to our nominating committee, and also with our communications back and forth with boards and commissions. It helps us if we know that who you are and that you're interested and you've put an application in. Technical assistance for the application process really is between you, the applicant, and the Office of Boards and Commissions, but they have a phone number to call and also a web link that you can click in to get technical assistance while you're in your application. And as you're moving through your application, you are able to save it and come back to it. So that's really kind of the whole process for applying. And John, I'm going to toss it back to you now.
Thank you so much for all of that, Assiah. A few more things to remember about being a member of the council. Assiah mentioned that there's a nominating committee. Being a member of the Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities is more than just showing up for a meeting every quarter. There is work to be done. There is a nominating committee that keeps us advised of who would like to be a part of the council. There's a state plan and implementation committee that makes sure that, 1, they create the state plan, but 2, make sure that we're working hard that it's executed. And there's a public policy and outreach committee that keeps us apprised of what's going on with the state and federal legislatures. So it's more than just showing up for meetings. It's a working board looking to advance opportunities for Arkansans with intellectual and developmental disabilities. If you want to learn more about us, please go to our website, and that is gcdd.arkansas.gov. The website is accessible, and by that it means there's an accessibility toolbar. It can do things in audio for you so that it can read every page that's on there for descriptions. But there's other things on the website itself. Our 5-year plan is available for you to view on there as well. There is an advocacy section. So when you want to get out there and start doing work to advance opportunities for Arkansans with intellectual and developmental disabilities, whether that's you yourself or your family member of somebody with a disability, the advocacy section gives you some tools to get started. But there are other things on there as well. We have a blog. You will see occasionally articles from me. We are pleased to occasionally get guest articles from different members of the Arkansas community that, again, are looking to advance opportunities for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in the state. So please check our website out. It's got all of our staff contact information is there as well, but there's resources, publications and grants, any sort of training that's out there. Get in there and get a look at it. If you want any publications, as Assiah had mentioned, you can order any number of printed publications that you can find on the website. You just go ahead and select the order form. That comes straight to our council email, and we can go ahead and get those sent out for you. You can also download many of them as a PDF file, and we work hard to make sure that everything is available in Spanish or Marshallese so that everyone in Arkansas is able to access and utilize our publications. Assiah, would you mind talking a little bit about the nature of the 5-year plan and just the 5-year state plan itself?
Absolutely. Thanks, John. We do operate on a 5-year cycle, what we call the 5-year state plan. We develop the plan based on needs assessments and input from the public and from the IDD community in Arkansas. That plan is submitted to the Administration for Community Living for approval. And once it is approved, that is what we operate on. We just submitted at the end of last year and were approved for our 22 through 26 plan. And that is available on the website. I will go over just our main 3 goals here in just a minute. Each year we do have to create and submit to ACL our annual work plan. And then at the end of each year, we have to report on that year's work. So each year we have what we call a PPR, or a program performance report. The council works when they're developing the plan to set goals, objectives, and activities. And we rely on that plan for everything that we do throughout those 5 years. And that's what we call state plan implementation, taking that plan and putting it to work. As John mentioned, we have a small staff. We are responsible to do the day-to-day work of the council. We take our direction from the council. Because we have a small staff, a lot of the work that we do to implement the plan is done through funded projects. We have a competitive funding program, and every other year we run a request for proposals, and the council selects a number of projects to fund. And in that way, we are able to do more and go further in implementing our state plan through that combination of funded projects and then staff work in-house. As I mentioned, I was going to go over just kind of the main 3 goals. We have a 3-goal state plan. Goal 1 is that people with developmental disabilities and their families will be active in advocacy activities that improve their lives and the lives of others and the service system. Goal 2 is that people with developmental disabilities and their families will have improved access to community supports and services. And then goal 3 is that the council will support projects to improve the competitive integrated employment of Arkansans with developmental disabilities. We work through these goals in different ways. And if you want to see the detailed 5-year plan, again, you can go to our website, gcdd.arkansas.gov, and download a copy of the 5-year state plan that includes all of its objectives and the activities under each of those goals and objectives. And that's a little bit about our 5-year plan. John?
Thank you, Assiah. Appreciate that. So in 2022, the Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities is celebrating its 50th anniversary. The Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities has existed in some form or another really since 1972. Initially, it was called the Arkansas Governor's Developmental Disabilities Planning Council. And that is when we really finally started to look at services for people in Arkansas with intellectual and developmental disabilities. The Disability Services and Facilities Construction Amendments of 1970 the federal law required each state to establish a state planning and advisory committee known as a State Council on Developmental Disabilities. And as I mentioned, that legislation was reauthorized in 2000 and created the DD network on top of that. But through its 50-year history, the Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities has had three main focuses, and that's really inclusion, integration, and independence for Arkansans with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And we know that inclusion, integration, and independence can mean different things for different people. But in the end, what we want is for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in the state to have the same opportunities to live, to work, to play, to worship in this state that we call home. And everything we do every day is in service of that mission. And I will tell you that some days we feel like we're getting a lot done, and some days we feel like we're building a mountain out of sand, one grain at a time. But we'll keep doing the work because ultimately that's why we're here. If you have any other questions about who we are, what we do, we encourage you to reach out to us with your questions. If you have general questions, the staff website is DDCSTAFF, that's DDCC staff at dfaarkansas.gov. You can call our office at 501-682-2897. And we are here Monday through Friday from 8 to 5 o'clock. If you happen to go to our website or you go to our next page, we actually, as staff members, all have individual contact information. You can also connect with us on social media through Facebook and Twitter as well. The administrative staff, as it stands right now, I'm Jonathan Taylor. I'm the executive director. My information is on the screen, as is that of Assiah Lewellen, my deputy director. Our program coordinator, Melissa Trustle Hall, and Kim Gatewood, our admin specialist, is on there as well. Please feel free to reach out to us with any questions you have. I will tell you this, we get lots of calls here at the council, and sometimes we can answer the questions and sometimes we can't. But what we can do is if we don't have an answer for you, we'll find someone that does. So please reach out to us with anything you've got, and we're happy to help. So thank you for attending today's video about the council. Again, you can explore us more on gcdd.arkansas.gov. Through there, you can explore our resources, our state plan, and you can use all of the different resources to connect with us. Thanks so much for being a part of our webinar today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.